Well, I finally made it off the couch this weekend. Figured I had to get something done. It was yet again terrible on Saturday. Cold, rainy, chance of snow. So here it is, like 3 o'clock on a Sunday. Finally made it out of the house. I think it's time to cut these bumpers up on the rear of the car because they hang way, way out there. And again, if you didn't watch the first one, go back and watch it. I'm going to take about probably 2 inches out of the rear. I don't have to narrow and shorten the rear one like I did on the front, but I think it's just a matter of cutting it, putting it back together. The rear is going to be a little bit more complicated on this one because I actually have the plastic piece on the rear of this one. You can see here it hangs past the body. This thing is, from what it feels like, there's a lip and then it gets smaller or thinner in there. I'm gonna have to figure out if I can grind it, heat it up, something, without making it look like, not that it really matters, but without making it look like total crap. The whole idea of this is try to make the car look cooler and not super wide and unnecessary on the bumpers. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna wing it. I'm gonna cut it, or cut the bumper, and then figure the plastic out afterwards. Recommendation, if you have a lowrider, don't drag it everywhere, or you will spend a lot of money in gas tanks. I'm on my second one. This is actually a gas tank out of a 72 Nova, because it was a few inches shallower. You actually see I welded the caprice filler neck to the other neck to make it work. But on this thing, as far as I can tell, it's just the 8 bolts for the bumper. It should just come right off. I don't think any of this other stuff's attached. If you had the bumper fillers and stuff on there, of course you'd have to be careful with those, which I did order those. I got the front ones in. I don't have the rear ones in yet. So there's another couple weeks for that, so go ahead and get this thing pulled off. I think this one will be easier off the car just because that plastic piece is so big on the rear of this and in the way. So let me yank this off real quick. So I got the bumper off, and on further inspection of this thing, it's a little bit more complicated than it looks from the outside. I think what I'm going to do for now is, I know if I trim it, it's going to be short, but I think I'm going to trim it just so it doesn't look like it's sticking way out for now. I think I'm going to cut it here. I think I'm going to 3D print a small one that just, instead of it kicking way out here, it kind of goes down. And if I 3D print it from this point over, I can bolt it on and potentially body work it, or not, because again, look at the car, but it'll at least fill that gap. And if I 3D print it in black, it'll match all of the bumper fillers that I have coming. So I think for now I'm just going to ruin it and make it look better than it will. I don't know. Regardless, don't judge it right off the bat. It probably won't be in this video because it's going to take me a while to design this and print it and test fit it and then do that over and over and over again until I get it right. I'll probably print it 10 times before I get it right, and each time's like probably 3 hours, 4 hours worth of printing just for one corner. So for now, terrible trim job is probably what it's going to get. And I need to set the bumper back on here because I forgot to measure it before I took it off because I'm kind of stupid. Remember from the first video, you have to be very careful with your trim here. You don't want to damage the trim. You want to use the correct professional tool to remove the trim so that you don't damage it, because you don't want to kill the look of the car, you know. Now that you got your trim removed, I'm going to take your exact measuring here, your precise laser. I'm going to throw everything on the ground, that way it's not in your way. Take your precise laser here. What you're trying to do is avoid your vintage Dare sticker from getting damaged. On a serious note, you're trying to lay out a mark that when you're cutting, I wouldn't make my cut along this outer edge, because whenever you cut it off and you butt it back up, this outer edge isn't the same profile as this. You're trying to make a cut that once you butt the two pieces together, the cut is the same. That way it doesn't look all jacked up and wonky. So as long as you take a measurement and your edges meet up correctly, technically you could put that tape on there wherever you want and everything would line back up, as long as the cut was straight. But again, I want this to look nice to an extent. It's a rat rod. Like it's supposed to look relatively unfinished, unkempt, on something or another. Trying to make it look cool, but I'm also not trying to invest a ton of time in this. Well, got everything ready to weld, and went to fire up the welder. No gas. Went through all of my tanks, argon tanks here. No gas. It always happens on a Sunday night. I don't think I've ever noticed that I was out of gas on any other day of the week except for Sunday. And it's usually at nighttime, where you can't do nothing about it. So, car's outside. Oh, I'm gonna go spend a lot of money tomorrow. I think I'm gonna turn this one into argon mix. That way I have 5 argon mixes, 3 argons, and then the rest of my oxygen and acetylene stuff. But never fails. 2 days before I get back in here, because I'll try and hit the weld shop tomorrow. Luckily, they'll exchange little tanks. They won't exchange big ones, but project postponed. Well, it's been like 3 days, I think. I don't know, I'm not very good at math. I got 5 tanks yesterday, which turned into a lot of driving around. My normal place is about half hour-ish from my house. I got all the way there and they didn't have any gas in stock. They didn't have any gas in this size tank called Arquette. They didn't have any gas, or air gas didn't have any gas. They called Arquette. They said they did, so I had to drive 45 minutes the other way to get gas. Yeah. By the time I got back home from doing everything that I was doing, I had zero motivation. It is time to get this done and to put my garage back together, because I still have everything all tore out and halfway through the project. So let's get back to work, I guess. I don't know. I kind of like the rough looking weld being on there. Looks kind of cool. Like almost cool enough to just leave it like that. Maybe I'll do the other side and then I'll make up my mind. Go ahead and repeat the same process here. Just laying down this laser edge here so I know where to go. A lot of precision going on here. Well, there it is in all of its $20 glory. I'm probably only going to use about this much of it. The rest of it's trash, but I don't know. See if I can make it work. I've never had the ones that were on here because they were completely rotted. I also got the front ones in too. Let's see how it goes. It's kind of weird how they mold these and they make this side look like perfect and nice and shiny, but the side that's exposed is kind of okay. I'm not that this car cares or I care about it, but I'm gonna get my eyeball measurement out here. Say about an inch. So chances are, if you have a old vehicle like this that you're doing this to, that it's mounted in some similar way, especially if you have a Caprice. Mine is missing the little retaining clips that hold these bolt brackets in. These things just float around, and whenever you pull the bumper off, these fall into here, and then you can't get to them. So what I do, wrap a zip tie around them. You can see this one's been crushed already. I'll wrap a zip tie around it, put the bumper up, start the nuts, and then go in there into the wire cutters, cut the zip tie out of the way. So one thing before I forget, sorry about the gravel noise. I always forget and I come back here and record anyway. But I do have the bumper fillers for the front now. I'll only be using like maybe an inch of it. I think this is the right side. I think I got it upside down. Regardless, I do have the bumper fillers for that. Hopefully in a future video, I'll be installing these and maybe making that front bumper filler out of sheet metal. Haven't decided yet. If I do, it's a little time consuming, but I think it'll be worth it because that gap is crazy. It's huge, and this bumper's tweaked because it's all level to about here, and this corner is bent down. So might do some heating and beating. I think I'm gonna heat this with a torch and bend this out just a little bit. When I cut this, I cut it flat and I moved them together, but kind of didn't take into account how much this curved in. Like, it's a lot. It's kind of hard to tell, but it curves in a lot. So it made the tuck look more drastic to the point where the corner light kind of sticks past it. I don't know what angle you're looking at it. So thinking maybe hitting this with a torch somewhere around this corner and bending this out just a little bit, maybe like 1/4 of an inch. I think it'll clean it up a lot. Well, the rear bumper is finished up. I'm gonna end up having to print something with a 3D printer to fill that corner in. I ended up just cutting it off because I couldn't manipulate it to make it look good enough. Turned out pretty good. Got just a slight amount past the body. Nothing crazy. Still looks factory-ish as far as the metal goes. I think it cleans up the look of the car a little bit. I'd rather deal with that big gap right there for now until I figure something out, rather than that piece of plastic that hung out to here, because that looked a little goofy. But yeah, progress is progress, I guess. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one, hopefully.